For the one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very own mind will end up being his greatest enemy. This channel, over the last 4 to 5 years, has tried to sound the alarm bell that there are military-level psychological operations being run on the entire population of the United States, and it's being done so without anyone's knowledge. They are just floating from emotion to emotion and not knowing why sometimes they can't sleep. Not knowing why sometimes things just don't work out the way that they thought it would. Psychological operations are operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions. Now we're going to stop right there. We're going to go to the rest of this later. But real quick, before we get started, just wanted to always lead off with gratitude. Thank you, everyone who's joined us, Florida Maquis Patreon channel. Tons and tons of videos on this exact topic over at the Patreon channel. The powers that be do not like when they are exposed. And a lot of people think, well, they've got this satellite orbiting and it's sending down beams, or they're spraying this and it makes me think that. And it's nowhere near that complicated. People can be manipulated when you can get large groups of people moving in one direction when they don't know they're all doing it together. Most sheep aren't aware of the entire size of the flock. Sheep have no comprehension because they're all the same height, right? Sheep can only see the few sheep around them. They could be in a herd of 100. They could be in a herd of 10,000. They would never know. Now, if you'd like to join us over there, there's 4 levels, 2, 5, 10, 15 a month. Tons of videos for every level. Love to have you. Pardon me. And the best part is it's fully refundable. Fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. Let's get right to today's topic, because it was something that I said that bothered a lot of people that Jesus actually said. I read from Matthew 5:28, where Jesus redefines adultery in the New Testament. He says, "But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Many people don't have the ability to break this down into what's being said. First of all, it shows that these laws only apply to men. Because wouldn't it say that, well, I guess you could say there's possibly a lesbian that looks at a woman lustfully, has already, but it says in his heart. So that rules her out, doesn't it? It doesn't apply across the board. I don't think this was an oversight on the part of Jesus. But the problem is that people don't read what was read right before this, what was said. Verse 27, right before this, says, "Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery." The assumption being that everyone knows what adultery is. Sleeping, being married, number one, you have to be married, and then sleeping with someone outside of your marriage. That's what we've all accepted, that adultery was an act. That adultery was an act, not a thought. Jesus says it's a thought. And people are like, oh, I can't possibly be. How can it be that we can be convicted of just having a thought, a passing thought? Well, what does it say about the end times? What does it say about the days before Noah? What did it say about the days before Noah? Men's thoughts were what? Men's thoughts were of evil continually. It doesn't speak of different depraved acts at the time. It talks about violence and obesity and marrying and giving in marriage in the end times, as in the days of Noah. But the thoughts of men were of evil. That's what's talked about. Now, in this same scripture, if you go back even just a few verses before, Jesus once again rewrites the Old Testament, rewrites the 10 Commandments. He says in 21, "Ye have heard that it was said of them of old time, Thou shalt not kill." Well, that seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? "And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment." But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall also be in danger of the judgment. Well, wait a minute. You're saying being angry with your brother without a cause is the exact same thing as killing? Well, according to Jesus, that is exactly what's said. He says also, and whosoever, to go even farther, shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in the danger of hellfire. Seems like equating all of these things with killing seems a bit odd, doesn't it? But here he really talks about what the meat of this subject is. Forgiveness. Thou bring thy gift to the altar, meaning to be forgiven. At this time, this is before Jesus had been crucified. You had to bring gifts to the altar for atonement of sin. And there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee. Leave there thy gift, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come offer thy gift. Meaning forgiveness first. See, this is the tough part. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that you're required to divorce your wife and or husband because of adultery. In fact, throughout the Bible, many places we're commanded to forgive. It might be a crass way to say, okay, I'm going to give her or I'm going to give him a hall pass on this one. But it's basically the same thing. Ephesians 4:31 says, let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgave you. Now, if you're commanded to forgive everyone and to be forgiving as you have been forgiven, how much more so your wife? How much more so your husband? But I'm going to go back to this. If you read this statement says that adultery only really applies to men. Because it talks about anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart, not in their heart. He's not talking to both genders here. And remember when the woman was caught in adultery and brought to Jesus? He reprimanded the men who did it and sent her on her way. Remember that story in the Bible? He didn't do one thing to her. He just told her, go and sin no more. Genesis, to speak of the way things are today. God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. He doesn't talk about actions here. That's why he destroyed man, for the thoughts that he had. And what does it say in Matthew? But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were what? Eating, obesity, drinking, alcoholism, marrying, and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark. So these must have been the things that were the result of thoughts of evil continually. Obesity, alcoholism, and marriage. Wouldn't it have just been easier for there to have been a commandment from God saying, thou shalt not procreate unless thou art married? Or thou shalt be married before procreation, something like that? Seems like it's kind of a roundabout way to get to something, if it's not truly about the state of the heart. Marriage licenses granted by government, precious stones and precious metals pounded into rings, the swearing of oaths. Oh, I almost forgot. You ready for this? He talks about divorce down here, Jesus speaking. It had been said, whoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her causeth her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. And here is the best evidence I have for the point I'm making. Again ye have heard that it had been said by them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, Jesus speaking here, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king, neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. Let your communication be yea, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Folks, you can't promise anyone tomorrow. I can't promise anyone tomorrow. Why? Because I'm not promised tomorrow. To say I'm going to be faithful to you for the rest of my life is a ridiculous oath that Jesus commanded us not to do. We don't even know that we're going to see tomorrow's sunrise. Man and woman get married, says, oh, I want to give you children and I want there to be grandchildren and great-grandchildren. We have this wonderful family. You can't promise any of that. You can't promise any of that. And here's my question on this. Let's say a woman gets married to a man, and they have a bunch of kids, and then those kids have kids, and then the man passes away. And then maybe she finds another man. Remember, till death do us part, right? She's no longer under any compunction to be single, so she can then go marry someone else. Maybe that man dies. Maybe a woman has 3 husbands, and she's a widow twice and married a third time. Well, when she gets to heaven, that's going to be kind of an awkward moment, especially amongst people who think that, well, my loved one's going to be waiting for me on the other side. It's going to be kind of awkward, the 3 husbands and the 1 woman. Don't you think? The mind. A beautiful servant and a dangerous master. And I know this seems like it might not be related, but this is exactly how people have been manipulated. You know how the people over on the left believe that gender is just some social construct? Remember this series, The Big Bang Theory? Wildly successful. On the order of Friends or Seinfeld or absolutely one of the most popular TV shows of the genre, of the era. One hot girl living in an apartment across the street from 4 nerdy guys. You flip the genders on this show, it doesn't last 1 season. It doesn't last 1 season. Why? Very simply put, the idea is to manipulate the mind. And that show was meant to manipulate the mind. Influence emotions, motives, and objective reasoning. And ultimately, the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and individuals. Because we know in reality, in this show, that this girl would have had nothing to do with any of these guys, given the types of guys in the show that she was dating, right? So why would they have a show out there showing something that's just completely unbelievable? It's almost as unbelievable as one super hot guy with 4 dorky, nerdy girls living across the street or across the hall having anything to do with them. You see, that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make, that you can read in the Bible. You can literally see something for your own eyes in words. In words. And still hold on to the emotional belief that something else is true. Jesus himself said that adultery is not just the act of a married person sleeping with someone who they're not married to. Jesus said it's that a man looking at a woman lustfully has committed adultery with her in his heart. Literally written in the Bible, and people say, no, that's not the case. Nope, that's not the case. That's just an addendum. That's just an addendum. It's still what it was before. Even though we can look in Matthew and we can look in Genesis and we can see that God is concerned with the state of the heart and the mind and what you're thinking. And what you're thinking. And the state of your heart. For the one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for the one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be his greatest enemy. I will leave that there. God bless. Thank you so much for joining us on Patreon. Very much appreciate it. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.